And joining us on the line right now is Bob Costantini, correspondent for Westwood One News, and a good friend, actually. Hello, Bob. It's good to talk to you, even under these unusual circumstances. I want you to set the scene there in Baltimore, if you would. How are things looking this morning?
Well, Brian, I'm actually at my house at the moment because I live here, and I was born and raised in the city, live here again. It is surreal, of course, what happened last evening while I was out for a while covering some of this. But this morning, there seems to be relative calm, at least. Some of the National Guard forces that the governor called into action are starting to hit the city. There are people cleaning up at the epicenter of the violence last night, which was where the CVS store was burned. There was a fire in West Baltimore that was apparently set overnight while I tried to get a little bit of sleep. But for now, things seem relatively calm. Schools are closed today, so who knows how this will play out. They're also planning some kind of ministerial meeting tonight to try to get a handle on this situation. Brian? Larry?
Bob, there was a lot of criticism last night of the mayor of Baltimore, Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, and you heard a lot of people saying, you know, this curfew that's been instituted, why did she wait so long? What's the word on the street there? Is there a way for her to have imposed the curfew earlier than she did?
Yeah, Larry, it seems as though it would have been almost impossible to impose the curfew in the middle of the unrest and the violence yesterday and last night. I think that's what the thinking was, at least, because there were so many young people out already and so many people of all ages out involved in these disturbances.
Yeah.
So that, the police would have been just busy in a lot of ways, chasing people, individuals, to try to lock them up for breaking the curfew. So
when they were already breaking some other significant laws, right?
Well, yeah. It would have been, curfew violations were the least, I guess, of the police problems last night. Forces have been brought in from outside jurisdictions as well to help quell the situation.
Bob, Maryland Governor Larry Hogan did declare a state of emergency, and he called in the National Guard. Yeah. In his remarks, though, it sounded as though he was waiting for quite some time. In fact, let me play a little bit of that so you can hear it.
Frankly, this is a Baltimore City situation. Baltimore City was in charge. When the mayor called me, which, quite frankly, we were glad that she finally did, is instantly we signed the executive order. We already had our entire team prepared.
What's at play there with regard to the communication chain between Annapolis and Baltimore City?
I'm not exactly sure because at least Hogan's a Republican and the mayor is Democrat, of course, and they've had at least some rapport back and forth since Hogan took office earlier this year. There's no question about it, though. The governor felt that perhaps she should have called in for his help for the National Guard or whatever else help the state could provide other than state police who are also helping patrol the city. But it seems as though the mayor, National Guard, as the governor said, is really kind of a last resort sort of thing, and we're just short of martial law being declared last night. So I'm sure that the mayor, in a sense, hoped that the city would be able to control this situation with the help of some of the other outside jurisdictions and the state police. But clearly they were just outmanned last night. There's no question about it.
I think that there's a special relationship between the city of Washington and the city of Baltimore, and I think it has to do with the Orioles. When we didn't have a baseball team and we wanted to watch, baseball, we would go up to Camden Yards. Yeah. We would go to Baltimore to watch the Orioles play, and you hung out at the Inner Harbor, and you came to have an affinity and an appreciation of that unique city. Now, you're a resident of Baltimore. How do you feel emotionally this morning about your city? Charm City has been renamed by some Harm City this morning.
Yeah. Well, Brian, it's certainly upsetting. There's no question about it, and I couldn't possibly explain it. These are areas, largely, where most of the incidents have occurred, of course, are areas that are already among the poorest in the city. The police had phalanxes around Camden Yards last night. The Inner Harbor was relatively well protected, if you will. to try to keep youths from going down there. Some of the people going down there. There were some residential areas in the middle part of the city that had some damage done to them, but it distresses me. I almost was in tears last night over this whole situation, seeing what was happening to the city here. But and I couldn't possibly explain the thought, the motivation behind the looting in particular, as you watch people from helicopter shots being, just going into stores and carrying out armloads of things. Try to look at the better side of it, I guess. There were a number of ministers who got together last night and marched through the heart of the worst of it and knelt and prayed. Congressman Elijah Cummings was with them, and they tried to quell the situation as best they could there. But there were people cutting fire hoses as the CVS was burning.
Yeah.
So I just can't possibly figure it out.
Yeah, frankly, Bob Costantini, I think as soon as you start to understand that, there's a problem. It's ununderstandable, I think. Let me ask you this way. We mentioned the curfew tonight, and you mentioned the National Guard coming in to help restore order. Are there any other proactive, positive items on the agenda for today? We know that the schools are going to be closed, which many people are concerned that means more kids on the streets. What will be done today to sort of, or if you've heard, to sort of help turn this thing around?
Well, there will be this evening the ministerial alliance in the city here with influential pastors getting together. I'm not sure whether or not their word is going to have any great bearing on what might happen tonight. That's a concern, truthfully. And again, as you point out, with schools closed, there may be young people on the streets. But remember, this kind of started after one school let out yesterday in Baltimore, and the students, through social media, decided they were going to go and attack, or whatever you want to say, of the mall that was right across the street from them. That mall ended up being looted late last night when police were elsewhere, and there were cars driving up to it as people were going in and out with items.
Well, the kids get out at 3, and the curfew doesn't begin until 10. There's 7 hours. We'll see. Listen,
well, they won't be in school at all today. So
that's right. They're not.
That's right.
That's right. You're right. Well, Bob, listen. Thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Keep your head on a swivel, my friend.
And Brian, Larry, thank you.